Hey y'all, how you doing? This is Teresa Strong, Monica T. Strong Speaks, and welcome to the circle. So this week we have been, well, for the next 4 weeks, we're going through a series called For the Love of You. And it accompanies my book, Attacked in Anger, Died in Love. And it is just a deep dive. It's a deep dive into some of the concepts in the book. And tonight we're just gonna jump in, y'all. Because see, this is what happens. I get to thinking about things and so many thoughts come to my head because I want to talk about all the things. But tonight the title is, and we shall stick to the title. Hey Shabri, thanks for coming in. Make sure you're sharing out. This will be good information. Good information. So this is day two of the love of you. So if you missed it, go back and see day one. It was really good, y'all. So we are talking about the love of misery. How can you love misery? You know, we always hear that misery loves company and all that stuff, but sometimes, many times, we find comfort in misery, in our miserable state. So we're going to talk about that tonight because sometimes you're consciously doing it, sometimes it's not. You don't always realize how, like, you can feel discomfort in something because misery is like the most detrimental, just I'm just miserable, and it's like the worst state, right? It's the worst state of your being to me. When you're saying I'm miserable, it's like I am hopeless. I just I can't do it. I can't take it. I am completely miserable. I'm bound. Like, think of all the words that come up when you think of misery. So I want us to think about that misery. Like, what area of your life are you thinking, oh gosh, like going to work every day, I am miserable at this job? Or you're in a relationship that you just, I'm so miserable here. You're in a living situation where you're miserable, right? And that might be hitting a little different right now in the middle of this season. But I want you to really break that down. How are you doing misery? What is misery to you? Right? What is misery to you? Define that. Because I think whenever we find ourselves in a state of not being happy with where we are, it's because some expectation is not being met. So with you, in whatever situation where you're finding yourself not happy with the current situation, what is not meeting your expectation? So is it that with your living situation, is it that I really would like my own space? I really would like for it to be clutter free. In your relationship, I really wish that I didn't have this nagging person in my ear. I just really, whatever it is, I'm miserable because I can't do the things that I want to do. My expectations of what I thought I could do in this situation are not being met. I can't do it. So I will have you think about misery in that sense. If you're feeling that feeling, that emotion, what is that? So, and we can sometimes feel like we want out of that, but we stay in it and we don't. We kind of stay in it as if we have no choice, right? And I want us to think about what choices we do have in it. So first of all, stop claiming misery. Claim what it is. Claim what it is that you're not satisfied with, that you're not happy with, that you wish would change, that you want to do something different. First of all, do that. Because I think what we do is we get comfortable. We say we want things to be changed, but where we are, because you know that person, they're always complaining about their situation, but they never do anything about it, right? They come to you with things, and you give them all this good advice and tell them all these things that they can do, these skills that they can gather. There's I can't think of the word I'm trying to say, but you give them all the things. You give them everything in your toolbox to help them make a decision to do something different. You encourage them, and they seem like they're going to do it. They want to do it. You know they do, but then they don't. Or maybe that's you. I know in some situations maybe it's you, right? And what it is we sometimes get so comfortable and complacent in that state, in that misery. We are more committed to the comfort than we are the remedy. We're more committed to staying in that situation where things are predictable, because predictable, let's talk about predictable, is safe. If we do something outside of that, it may give us some joy, it may give us some change, but we don't have any documented evidence within ourselves that it is, so it's scary. So it's a certain amount of fear that comes along with that. And we want to be safe. And even though we may not even be safe in the situation we're in, it's not safe, it's just predictable. It's just predictable. So where is that showing up for you? Where is that showing up for you? And you're probably wondering, Teresa, what does that have to do with the book? What does it have to do with it? Because I found myself doing things, making decisions, living a certain life that I wasn't necessarily comfortable in. I wasn't necessarily comfortable in. I wasn't, this is it. I felt in conflict. I felt in conflict with who I really was, but still I was behaving in this way because it was what I felt comfortable in terms of that's what I had always done, that's what I had always seen, so that's what I repeated, if that makes sense. So some things you're doing just out of, that's just how we do things, right? That's how I was taught to do it. That's how my mom and them did it, my daddy, my uncle, the whole family. That's how we did it. So this is how we're going to do it. If that's what they believe, that's what I believed. I don't know. That's what I believe, because I don't know to believe anything different, because nothing has been shown to me different. So how would I know? And if I do know, how do I know that that's for me? And I think that's how sometimes we get caught in different habits and different hangups, and we continue to repeat the same pattern because we find comfort in the misery, or just predictability in the misery. I know I used to work with domestic violence victims, and one of the things, because some people would just say, well, just leave. And many a times you would hear a victim say, I'm safer here because I know where he is. If I'm out there in the world, I don't know where he may pop up. I don't know what he's doing. But as long as I'm home, even though I know that the abuse will occur, it's still predictable. I know when he's going to escalate. I know when it's coming. So there's some level of comfort in knowing what's coming. I know it sounds strange, but that's, as human beings, that's sometimes how we respond. It takes a lot of effort to do something different for most of us. It takes a lot of effort to jump out of, we're feeling it now. We're feeling it now because now we're forced out of our comfort zone, and we're forced into a new way of doing things and a way of being. And the way we deal with that can have some long-term effects on our success later. So so it's very important for you to look at your different habits, the things that you're doing that you're not quite satisfied. That's the word I need. That you're not quite satisfied with, that makes you feel that you're in conflict with your core self, but you continue to do it. So think about the comfort that you're having in your misery, and examine what you're afraid of. What are you afraid of losing if you shift out of that? Are you afraid of losing that significant other? Are you afraid of losing those connections that you have when you're in that habit, or when you're reacting that way? When you are the angry person in the room, when you are the always happy person in the room? What happens when you decide to really truly be you, and not be that chameleon in the room who is just changing with the tides, right? Because that's part of this. That's all part of this, and was part of my story, is figuring out who I was. And that came with some trial and error. That came with some trying on different different personalities, different attitudes, just to see what felt right for me. So I hope that resonates with y'all. I hope you can relate to what that is. So I want to briefly go over the because the misery to me is just unresolved hurt. It's part of that whole cycle of having it can be. Let me say it can be. It's part of that not saying what it is that you really want, whether you're afraid to or you don't know what you want. So you're living in a situation or living as in a place where whether it's just how you're being in the world. It's just you're going through the motions. You haven't really tapped in to know what's going on with you and why you're behaving the way you are, the why you're responding the way you are. And that can go back to just some unresolved issues from your past, or just some beliefs that you've come to, or some patterns that you learn that just kind of going against your beliefs, but you just don't understand how and why and when you should change that or look for something different. Maybe no one has given you permission to say, hey, you can do that. No one in your family did it, but you can. It's a possibility for you. So maybe that's something you have to go back and re-examine. So I wanted to go over just briefly the cycle of hurt, because that is such a big part of me getting to know who I am, getting to this point where I know my purpose, I'm in my purpose. I can tell you what my favorite things are, what I like and what I dislike. I have boundaries that I can uphold, right? Right. I've gotten to that place now because I came to understand what was going on with me, why I was reacting, why I was not reacting, all those things. So I remember, I'll tell you the story later. But I just wanted to show this real quick. We're not going to go into details about it, but I thought about this one day when I think I was talking to one of my clients, and we were just breaking down what happens when you don't take care of that inner stuff, when you allow that hurt to fester. And when I talk about hurt, I want you to know that we're talking about not just physical abuse and mental abuse and those type of things, but just disappointments in your life. It might have been an illness. It might have been the death of a loved one, just things that happen in your life that just kind of threw you off course. Just threw you off course, and you just been reeling and not understanding, not doing, and just like you can't shake that thing. The thing has a hold on you. You just can't shake it. So there is there are options for you, but you have to take charge of. You have to realize your state. Like we said the last time, be truthful. Be truthful to yourself about you and what you're going through, and check yourself. Because that's the other thing about misery. We will often say, somebody made me miserable. She's making me miserable. He's making me miserable. This situation is making me miserable and all that. Mm-mm. Because this is what I know. What I know. A miserable person that's inner stuff. If you're miserable here, it's likely that you're going to create that same situation in another place with another person, another job. You're going to be that same miserable person because the misery is in you. It's not with those other people, it's in you. So it's the stuff that you have to deal with to either create the space that is that meets your expectations, that is truly aligned with who you are as a human being, and not just what has been imposed upon you by society, by your family, by your culture, whatever it is. That's on you. So and that's the thing, right? So you can move out of a situation, leave a job, do all this stuff, and still find yourself unsatisfied, right? Unfulfilled, in a word. So let me show you this. This is what I call the the anatomy of hurt, not the anatomy, but the cycle of hurt. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just gonna leave that up. It's just something happens, throws you off, some kind of hurt, some kind of incident, some kind of trauma, and you have a choice in that. So after that happens, you have a choice. The choice is you can go and get some help, right? You can go and get some help, some counseling, some therapy, go to a 12-step program, whatever. You can go through something to get, you can tap in somewhere to get some assistance, right? Or you can go here. You can suppress, you can deny, you can just sit there in your anger and just bemoan what has happened to you, right? Hold on, I need a bigger. Now, after you make that choice, I'm sorry, so you can have the hurt, then you have two choices. You can address it, get supported, be heard on one hand. That's the blue side. On the red side, you can ignore it, blame, take on the blame of it or blame others, feel helpless, feel isolated, woe is me, nobody understands, nobody has ever gone through this. You can do that. But once you get there, you would still need to have someone to help you process through that. And it doesn't have to necessarily be someone, but some kind of counseling, coaching, life recovery, go to the Lord, whatever it is, to kind of help you put that thing into place in terms of how it fits into your life, what you can learn from it, and how it has strengthened you. Right. So if you continue on the side where you ignore, blame, and feeling helpless and isolated, you get no help. Then you develop all these defense mechanisms such as denial. You become prideful. Paul said, hey, y'all, you develop bad habits. And if you continue on that, then that can lead to compulsive addictive behaviors, hang-ups, just because it compounds. The more you try to suppress this hurt, the more you will try to put things, artificial things in place of it to make it go away, to further smother it. So if you go on that path, then that's where you'll end up. And that's just not a good place. That creates and compounds your idea of misery, right? You can do all the things to look good on the outside, but internally, you are hurting, right? So if you address the situation, get the supported, and you're heard, you tell somebody and they're like, man, I understand what you're going through. Here's some things that can help you. That can lead to you having freedom, peace, clarity, and love. So I hope that made sense to y'all, but that is the sort of thing, that is the reason, like that is like the premise of my book and my story. If I had not tapped in at some point, if I had not gone and told someone my story and they had led me to some kind of help, then I would have been on a different path. I promise you, look, y'all, I was in college. Story time. I was in college, y'all, behaving badly. I was a good girl. I told you I was a good girl when I was to college, came back with baby. I had like the grades. I went in on the scholarship, all that jazz, right? But I was also hurting. I was hurting. I was suppressing the hurt. I had told no one the story. No one knew of it. Nobody. No one knew I had been molested for about 10 years. No one knew the way how no one really knew about the domestic violence and how it was affecting me. All right, because I never talked about it, never said anything, because I was the good girl. I was the quiet. If you ask anybody about me, oh, Teresa, that was a good little girl. She was so sweet, so mannerable. Oh, just the sweetest little girl. And she was so smart. She had the wisdom of an old person. Yeah, very responsible. Yeah, that was me. Some of y'all can relate. That was me, right? But when I got off to school and something about being away from home, I just took on this whole different persona. I took on a whole different persona because I had something to prove. I didn't really understand the levity of what was going on inside of me, but it was hurt. It was just hurt, and I was acting just poorly. I was acting poorly out there, and I made some decisions that weren't great. They were not great, and they led to some results that, you know, took me in a very different direction. I tell you one thing though, having that child, having my son saved me. Because if not, I guarantee you, I would have been in a strip club somewhere. I would have definitely been on a strip in the strip club. I had been approached about it. I had a girlfriend who went off to do it, who was in school. She wasn't like a good friend, but she was one of the girls in the dorm, and she had gone off to do it. So the opportunity was there, but I had that little something in my ear. First of all, her name Johnny May. It was in my ear. John May's voice was in my ear, and it kept me from doing it because I didn't want to embarrass her. I had already had, you know, I was already, you know, doing some other stuff that I didn't want her to know about. But I did not want to have that as one more thing, because I had spent all my life trying to do things that would not cause her any discomfort, any harm, because I felt like she was going through enough. So, but once I had my son, that was no longer a question. Like, it was questionable for a while. It was something that I contemplated for a good little while. But once I had him, that was like, there's no way I can do that. So there you go, another story that's not in the book, but just a little backstory as to how deep, how far this can go if you don't get the help that you need, if you don't tap in. So that's all I have for y'all. I want you to think about, that's not all I have, I'm sorry. I want you to think about the cost of your actions, the cost of your actions and inactions. And if you're doing things because you're more committed to the comfort than you are your breakthrough, if you're more committed to the comfort than you are your next level, right? Because if you put it like that, then it might shake a little something in you. Like, am I committed to being miserable more than I am to being successful? Right? Because sometimes we want stuff, but we're not willing to pay the cost to do the work to get it. So I want you to assess that. So I think I'm off. That's not in the yeah, that's not in the workbook. So in the workbook, the question is, why have you chosen not to change before? So that's kind of related, right? That's kind of related. What perceived obstacles have kept you from jumping up out of that state of conflict within yourself, of making that next move, of doing that thing that takes you out of that misery? What has kept you from doing that before? What's that perceived obstacle? Is it an obstacle, or is it your commitment to comfort? Is it your commitment to comfort that's keeping you, because you don't want a disruption in your life, right? You want the end result, but you don't want the disruption that's going to have to happen in order for you to get to that level, that next level of success, that next level of, of whoever you are trying to be, whatever you're trying to do. There's going to take some disruption. So let me see if I have any questions, anything, because I didn't have my phone on, y'all. Didn't have it set up. Yep, so I think, oh, Trina got me on the watch party. So let me see if I have any questions. If y'all have anything, let me know. Hey, is that Kip? Hey, Kip, how you doing? Other obligations. That's what's keeping you. How important are those other obligations? And and it's okay. I don't mean to be judgmental about it, but I want you to be at choice. So don't say that you're miserable when you're making conscious choices, because you're either, we talked about this last time, avoiding a result, right? Or wanting a different result. So if you're trying to avoid a certain result, of, like, Kip, I'm using you now because you jumped in. Like, you have to, you have young kids and you want to do different things with them. So you're choosing to do that as opposed to do something else that you think you may want to do. And understand choices, but also I want you to know that you're making a conscious decision, and that's okay. Be good with that. Don't let me be the one to say that that's not a good thing. It just is. But just be at choice and know that that's a decision that you're making because you are looking for a certain result at this time. And it can change, right? It can change. We are forever evolving. Things are always changing around us. So we can always adjust a little bit as we go. But if you're in a place of misery, then that's when I want you to look at your situation and, first of all, define the misery. Define what it is that you want to be different. Define where you're not having your expectations met, because that is, we say misery, but what's the real thing? What's that real thing? So let me see if I have anything else. But thank you for jumping in. I appreciate you being here. Facebook has a delay, so I have to, let me just check real quick, y'all, and drop any questions, concerns. Have any of you that's on here read the book? If you read the book, I do want to hear from you and see what your take was on it. If it moved you at all, gave you any breakthroughs, made you think about things differently, I do want to know. Let's see. I don't see any other comments, so I'm going to go ahead and end this right now because y'all know I don't like to be on here too long. So I thank y'all. I appreciate you all. Remember, there is a party at the end of this series. At the end of this series, I'm celebrating my birthday and a book signing. So the registration link is going across the bottom of the screen. It's bit.ly/bookbirthday919. Bookbirthday919. So that you can register and join me. I'll be signing books live on Facebook and on Zoom, and we're just gonna have a good time. We're gonna turn this little area into a little party zone, and we're gonna have a good time and celebrate. I want to celebrate your wins, because if you're doing this work, asking and answering these questions of yourself, then you're gonna have some kind of shift. You're gonna have some kind of shift. It makes you think of things a little bit differently. So we're gonna celebrate. And always, I didn't say this the last time, but you don't have to wait until the party to contact me if something comes up for you. Because sometimes things, get a little, you start digging deep into your life, and then, something comes up and you just get a little, I'm here for it. I'm here for you. I'm here for that. I'm here for you. So please reach out if you get to a tough place and you need some additional support on the real. So that's it. That's it. I appreciate y'all. And remember, be good to you so that you can be good to others. Good night.